I'm Jim Collison and live from the Gallup campus here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Called to Coach, recorded on December 5th, 2014. Called to Coach is a resource for those who want to help others discover and use their strengths. We have Gallup experts and independent strengths coaches share tactics, insights, and strategies to help coaches maximize the talent of individuals, teams, and organizations around the world. If you have questions during the webcast, we do have a live chat room that's available for you right below the main video window there at coaching.gallup.com/live. And if you're listening to the recorded version, or if you have questions about custom strengths coaching solutions for small, medium, or large organizations, we'd love to help you with that as well. Just send us an email, coaching@gallup.com, or you can use the contact right there. If you're on our live page, there's a contact form right to your right there on the page. Just fill that out and hit submit, and we will get right back to you. Don't forget to visit the Gallup Strength Center, just Gallup-Strengthscenter.com. A lot of updates actually coming to that over the last couple months, and this month the big one as well. So you head out to the Gallup-Strengthscenter.com for all your coaching resources and training needs. You can also catch the video in both streaming and downloadable audio, as well as RSS or iTunes video for you. Now you can download this to your phone and take it with you on the road, maybe capture some time in the car or on the train or in the plane. And it's a good way to listen to the show. All those links are available on our coach's blog. Head over to coaching.gallup.com. Jeremy Petrosini is our host today. Jeremy works as a senior learning and development consultant here with Gallup on the riverfront. He's not on the riverfront with me today, calling in from home, I think. Jeremy, great to have you on, and welcome to another Call to Coach.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, good to be here as always. And actually just got back from D.C. where we were introducing strengths to a group of leaders from North Africa and the Middle East. So it was really interesting. None of them spoke English. I speak very little or zero Arabic. And so it was what was really cool is when we got to the point of talking about their Strength Finder results, language barriers didn't matter. And by the way, WOO translates woo, I think, in every language. Since it's an acronym or a made-up word, it was most fun when somebody says woo, and I'm like, oh, I know that one. But want to welcome you guys out there. I know many of you are coming back to listen in. It's always fun to hear from coaches of how you guys leverage the resource of our webcasts, and excited to have another Gallup-Certified Strength Coach with us today. As you guys have heard us talk about before, but if some of you are new, I just want to share this with you. Again, it's Gallup's mission. When I talk about even working with leaders around the world, it's our really part of our mission is to see over 1 billion people discover their strengths and really put those into practice. And we know that doesn't happen by them just going online and taking Strength Finder and having these 5 words, but it happens when a coach can really come alongside them, help them really apply them, understand who they are more, what it really means in the day-to-day life. So part of our drive to reach those 1 billion people is to partner with and equip over 1 million coaches like Austin, like others who are out there listening. So thank you, everybody, for doing what you do. We are now up over 11 million people who have completed Strength Finder, and the number continues to rise every day. You can actually see that update, as Jim was talking about, on the Gallup Strength Center site. But our coach with us today, Austin Suellentrop. Did I say that right, Austin? Yep. Okay. From Regions Bank. Austin is a certified strength coach. He actually spoke at Gallup Summit this last year. You guys hear all the time about independent coaches, things that we're doing with small, medium-sized business. There's also a lot that we're doing with large enterprise, and Austin's an example of somebody that in his role as a leadership development specialist, there's really a lot that he does in his day-to-day that it's formalized coaching or kind of indirect coaching, where strengths has become part of the culture at Regions, and Austin's one of the guys who gets to kind of really help kind of keep fanning the flame on that. So Austin, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I appreciate the opportunity. Glad to be here.
So real quick, I'll share your top 5. That's always of interest to people, right? They want to coach you as they're listening, but you can tell me if I got it right here: communication, activator, futuristic, belief, and positivity.
Spot on.
Awesome. So Austin, tell us just a little bit about yourself. I know we when you and I talked last week too, I kind of shared with you the whole idea of this call being called Call to Coach. Is for so many people, they don't feel like coaching is a have to in their job description, but it's I get to do part of what makes me come alive. But tell us about your own journey with strengths and kind of how you fell into coaching.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. my job at Regions, when I manage our associate engagement efforts as a company. So we just finished our third engagement survey this past year, going into our fourth assessment in the spring, summer of next year. So I was actually introduced to StrengthsFinder and Strengths as a tool to help teams with engagement. So when managers or leaders came to us and said, I've got this Q3 that teams are talking about, they want to help figure out how they can do what they do best every day. Well, how do I do that? And that was really where StrengthsFinder initially for me was a plug-in there on a tool and a way to help teams identify what they do best. So that was really how I was introduced to it. And I'll tell you, here at Regions, I remember it was one team that we did this with, and we used the analogy, it was a water faucet dripping that very quickly turned into a tsunami. Once people in our organization started hearing about this and talking about it, it spread like wildfire. So Strengths really falls in line with me. Belief number 4 for me makes it very easy to connect with the reason why we do this. And so the opportunity to help people identify what they're naturally good at, what they bring to the table, personally was an easy connection to make. So after a few months of working with this tool, myself and 2 colleagues came to Omaha for the 5-day accelerated course and had what I've described many times as a life-changing experience. Really digging into my themes, my talents.
Yep.
The understanding at 30 years old, understanding why the heck I've done the things I've done my whole life, and doing it in an environment with other people who apply it so many different ways. So for us, it was a great experience. We left there, myself and my 2 colleagues left there knowing we had found something that was going to make a difference at Regions. And shortly thereafter, in the last couple of years, to say 2 years at Regions, we've put almost 5,000 people have taken StrengthsFinder out of our 24,000 associates. And our commitment is that every associate at Regions, all 24,000 and change, will have that opportunity, like you said, as part of the mission, to not just take the StrengthsFinder assessment, but have a conversation with somebody about what it means to them and how they can use it. Yeah. So for me, it was came to me through engagement, but really when I met it and I experienced it, far deeper than that. It was an easy connection to how I believe in treating people and the values I have. So it was a very easy connection to make.
Well, I know you shared with me too that it's gone even beyond just kind of, hey, this is something I use in my job every day. But even you talked about how you and your wife now use it even in your local church, kind of helping equip high school students. Absolutely. But it's become kind of part of your approach to how to develop others. It sounds like.
Yeah, one of the first things I did, and I would recommend this in some ways, but not the way I did it. The first thing I did when I got back from Omaha was I called my wife, driving to the airport in Omaha. I said, "Honey, we got to talk about this." It hit the nail on the head. So we sat down and went through my 34, and she's just nodding her head.
And then she's saying, "Why didn't you show me this before you proposed?"
Exactly. So my wife, on a routine basis, will tell me to quit activating. Just quit activating. Calm down. We don't have to do that right now.
Yeah.
But I entered into a coaching relationship with my wife, and so she's taken the StrengthsFinder. It's been a lot of fun. I've done family sessions with my family, with my in-laws. And then really had conversations that I think the vocabulary side of this, these things about a lot of people, but to be able to articulate it in a language that is common really is what I think adds a great deal of value. So we do. My wife and I are the youth directors at our church, and so being able to talk to high school kids about the things that are right with them, the things they do well and why they do them well, I think is such a valuable thing for kids at 15 to 19 years old to be able to look in the mirror and see what's good about them rather than the world around them always telling them what's wrong. So, absolutely productive and applied both in the office and outside.
Yeah, that's great. And then tell us back with the Regions piece too. And I appreciate when you were talking about how even for you all, this sense of engagement. Do we have employees that are not just showing up to work, but are they really psychologically committed? Are they all in? Are they more alive? Are they loving what they do every day? Strengths became a part of that. Give us a quick nugget too of just who Regions is. I think that you mentioned 24,000 employees. just there might be some people obviously listening in even from other parts of the country or world
Right.
that don't know the brand. You guys obviously and know a little bit about it from our partnership with you guys. You guys are doing some things different, right, than maybe some other banks. Hopefully different.
We'd like to think so.
Right?
Yeah, I appreciate that. We'd like to think so. So we are a full service financial services firm, right? So we're a full service bank. We have commercial, retail, consumer banking in 16 states, based here in Birmingham, Alabama, down to Miami, up to the Carolinas, over into Indiana, Illinois, down through Texas. So that sort of southeastern chunk of the country. We do have 24,000 associates, give or take a few. So about 1,700 branches. So we're spread out. We're in the southeast. We're spread out throughout that region. We joined up with Gallup, really 2007 time, 2008, around then, and really started our work with Gallup around the service quality side of measuring and tracking our customer service quality in our branches.
Yep.
And in a few years went from very low end ratings on that side of the business to industry leader in that area as a result of the work and the science and the reputation that Gallup has and the advice. So we developed the relationship starting then. So in 2012, when we were coming out of the worst of the recession and the worst of the financial crisis as a bank, looking to how do we transition from survival to growth in the economy we're in. We look around and we don't see the economy around us booming. We don't expect that to happen. We don't expect interest rates to go up and start rising. So how do we return our bank to sustained profitability? We believed it was investing in our associates and getting more out of what we have. So for us, engagement was that opportunity to look inward. And if you look at our core values as a company, one of those core values is to put people first. And we had done such an effective job at externally focusing that, at looking at putting our customers first and serving our customers and measuring and tracking how we were doing that it was time to look inward with it and focus on our associates and put our associates first. And that's really what I think engagement was for us, was putting the same level of commitment to supporting our associates as we had demonstrated through supporting our customers.
Yeah. Well, and you referenced earlier too, obviously with Gallup's approach to engagement, those of you out there who may not be as familiar, q12.gallup.com, you can learn more about it, or gallup.com as well. But it's simply 12 questions, right? There's additional questions that I know you guys ask as well, but with those 12, one of them that you mentioned, right, that third question of do I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day, really gets to the heart of, am I playing to my strengths? Am I, for me, my maximizer futuristic, do I get to do that? For you, are you able to leverage your activator maybe in a way that lets your wife say, good, he used it at work some today, so he doesn't have to use it at home as much.
Right.
But it's do I have the chance to play to my strengths? Share with us how you've seen, it doesn't have to be direct correlation to that item, but whether it's with a group, whether an entire division or a branch or even an individual leader, manager in the bank, how have you seen strengths really bring about that transformation or bring about impact that you've seen, again, trickle all the way down to the way you guys lead and what your clients experience?
Yeah, I've probably, so we have about almost 5,000 people, associates at our company, who have already taken StrengthsFinder and had a conversation, gone through some sort of exercises to really apply it.
Yep.
So we've seen a lot of small little success stories throughout that 5,000. There's a few that have been really what I consider to be potentially transformational in their impact, and that's looking at a leader, for example, who harmony is number one for that leader, right?
Okay.
So in the American business world, harmony is oftentimes viewed as soft, right? Yep. Avoiding conflict, not wanting to have difficult conversations. And really, the leader I'm thinking of in particular, through the team, we do a lot of team sessions where we will sit down with the leader and his or her team of 8-10 people, talking about strengths, talking about their themes, and looking at a grid of the whole team, sort of how they balance each other out. And the team looks, and just as simple as a conversation around, wow, harmony's number one for you, and they talk about, well, that may explain why difficult conversations don't happen quickly, right? But when you talk and you hear, and the group's able to converse about it, you realize the leader behind the scenes is actually doing a lot to foresee difficult things coming and avoiding those things in the first place. So being able to adjust course with the team to avoid conflict ever from happening. And all those times that the leader has done things without the team really even knowing that have avoided difficult times for the team. And that kind of conversation where the leader's never going to voluntarily tell the team, hey, I avoided a major issue here. Right? But that theme is driving that leader to really look out for difficult times coming or obstacles or conflicts coming and do whatever he or she can to avoid them ever happening. So little things like that if you do this for 1,000 teams, the cumulative effect is pretty significant.
Yeah, and like you said, it's not always even that the leader needs to say, hey, here's how I leverage my harmony today. Right. And harmony, I love the example you gave too, because I view it almost even, and we use the word in music as well, but I view it almost as like an orchestra conductor who can begin to hear like, ooh, if this goes off track, or if that person is now on the wrong sheet of music, is the whole thing gonna fall apart? But they are able to correct it, right? They kind of fine-tune, make an adjustment before that even happens. And from the audience perspective, you never knew that there was anything wrong. And I think, again, for that person to see harmony not as it's soft or it gets in the way, but you go, no, this is kind of, I always say it's almost like when you understand your talent themes, and if you can look beyond your top 5 even, and we'll talk a little bit about how you guys leverage the results with people, but it's like those are your kind of secret weapons. Those are things that you don't need to wear on your sleeve and say, hey, this is my maximizer or tattooed on my forehead. But if people can see that you are somebody who the dissonance is gone because you saw it before it even happened, that's huge to the bank. It's huge to the team. It's huge to the, just the energy and the synergy that you see around the people.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably one of the things that engagement started and Strengths has really enhanced is vulnerable conversations, right? Is having conversations as a team, a leader with a team, about sometimes what's labeled as soft stuff, right? Feelings, emotions, all those things. And when you have a conversation about the 12 elements of engagement, the strengths component naturally plays in so well that over the last couple of years, we have seen probably the biggest piece of feedback we've received is that teams love that they talk more. And when they talk, they're not just talking about business. They're talking about these other things. And that's why I think at a financial institution, it's so important that we often have a reputation for being all business, all about the numbers, stack ranking everything. That's what we love to do because we're bankers. We like numbers. But to be able to equip leaders with a vocabulary and a topic that they can talk about their way through their themes and their natural sort of comfort zone, and at the same time their team's loving it. And so that's why for us it's been such a sort of groundswell of demand, because for so many years, especially through the peak of the crisis, it was all hands on deck, focus on getting the job done with less resources and a quicker turnaround time. And so now we are able to invest in our associates in those types of conversations.
Austin, let me jump in real quick and ask, because Maureen had asked this question out in chat, and I think it applies to what you're talking about. I want to get right to it. When you talk about the organizational structure, everyone always asks this question about who's the champion or the advocate in the company. How high up did that go? And I realize sometimes in our enterprise we can only talk about certain things, right, with the company. But how high up is that? And what's the commitment you've seen to it from a senior management level to this?
So our approach to rolling strengths through the organization was, how do I put this? We didn't have a go to our operating committee, get buy-in, trickle it down from the top. That wasn't how we chose to do this. Like I said, we started with one team, mid-level management team, and then they talked to their peers, and they talked to their peers. So we started almost middle of the organization. And then word of mouth spread this. Now, we certainly have support from our CEO, from Mr. Hall, on engagement and on why engagement is important and how to drive engagement and the importance of doing that. So we have never once wavered from support from the very top, from our CEO, on the validity of engagement and that it's the right thing to do. Once we exposed and showed just how connected strengths and engagement are, it was a no-brainer from the leadership of the company. So we have support for this approach from the top of our house throughout the organization. But what we didn't do was we didn't go to them first and say, we want to try rolling this out throughout our company. We just took it as another tool, another workshop that we do a lot of in our department, and it spread very quickly. So it was both support from the top as well as, hey, we're getting it out to the market. And like I said, we have almost 5,000 people who have taken it as a result of nothing more than word of mouth. Mm-hmm. There hasn't been we haven't advertised this. We haven't put it out on an intranet as an offering. This is all word of mouth, that somebody has a conversation in a break room about what they and their team did. The next thing you know, that other team is demanding it and asking for it. That's a testament not only to the culture of our company, that they value this type of conversations, they value these things, but also to how easy it is to have these conversations, that people like to talk about themselves and what's right with them. We just don't give ourselves a chance to do that all the time.
Yeah, no, it's helpful to hear that, because again, I think oftentimes people get discouraged thinking if it's not our CEO's idea and right. He or she took strengths and had their team, it's not going to go anywhere. And you know, that's not often true. I think the piece that you guys have done, and you just said this, is, again, this isn't just kind of a nice to have or flavor of the month or did you guys read that book and take the assessment. This links to business results. Yeah. And again, your focus on driving both that customer engagement or customer experience, as well as realizing engaged employees are what drive that. And if people can know their strengths, they're going to be more likely to be engaged. There's that strong correlation that again, if you're out there, and I don't know, again, the person that asked the question, if you're out there wondering like, how do I get buy-in? You know, and Gallup's got some great articles on this, but it's a way to increase growth, profitability, productivity. It is a business strategy, not just an assessment of somebody's personality.
I do want to clarify. Our executives have taken it, and our executives have taken the assessment. They've had the conversations. They've done the team sessions with their teams, right? So our senior most leaders have experienced it. I think that's probably the most important part of this. How do you get buy-in? You give them the experience. I've yet to work with a team that has taken the assessment, gone through one of our workshops where they talk about it and do activities and really flush it out, that haven't walked away saying, that was really worth my time. That helped me in some way, shape, or form. So I think that's the most important thing. If you're looking for how do I get this to work here at my company, identify who your critical stakeholders are and give them that experience. Once they get that experience, I think that then it's a lot easier to make the case, the business case for why Strengths works.
Yeah, and Austin, tell us a little bit more about I guess, you know, we always on Call to Coach, we'll have people ask, like, what are some tips and tricks that you've kind of mastered? I know you guys, as you said, the organization made the commitment to send you, some of your colleagues, you know, to the 4.5-day accelerated coaching program, so you guys could be certified. You have all kind of the tools that Gallup kind of has to offer. But how have you found that, again, it's like we said earlier, it's more than just having the execs take it and they've got this top 5 report. Right. But tell us what you guys have done. What are some of those things that you've done to really help them come away with that this was a game changer perspective?
Yeah. You know, for us, being internal coaches and not being external, the certification is less important to us. Yeah. It's less needed because we're coming internally with a different type of credibility and a different type of relationship already. So for us, the certification was to allow us to really know this stuff inside and out, so we can intertwine it into everything else that we do. So we can really weave it through all of our formal programs. And so Strengths to us is not just one thing on a shelf. Strengths is part of a discussion. We have formal leadership programs for every level of leader in our organization, and Strengths is a part of all those programs, right? but we have, at the same time, we have created workshops that are designed to be either externally facilitated by a member of our team, a member of our training team, HR partner, whoever it may be, or they really are hopefully led by the leader. And there's simple activities, simple conversations to be having. We fundamentally believe in the leader as teacher. That's an most effective way of driving change. So a lot of what we do now, like I said, when we first rolled this out, we were doing strength sessions left and right, trying to keep up with the demand. As we've studied it more and what's worked here, we did some internal research to find and ask the people who went through our experiences how it was impacting them. And what we found was it really took 3 conversations. It really took 3 conversations about their strengths and about their talents before they started to see behavior changes and feel like things were improving. So with that, we built that now in to how we do this, right? If we do a session for a team, there's expectations that we have that every one of them has a follow-up coaching call with somebody about their strengths. Well, there's not enough of us on our team to do a coaching call with every member of our organization. So we've trained up in the last year and a half. We've put one group of 25 people through the initial 2-day introduction to strengths that was Gallup-led. We're about to put another 25 through that in February. So it's a lot of peer coaching, and we know that the experience is great, but this has got to drive performance improvements. This has got to drive changes in behavior. And so we now do a lot more follow-up, a lot more structured coaching conversations either before or after the initial strengths exposure. So I think for us, it's not just like engagement. It can't be this other thing sitting over here on the shelf that you pull off when a team wants a team building event. It's a very good natural fit for a team building event, but that's not its full potential.
Yeah.
And so we've tried to interweave it into everything that we do as a leadership development department.
And what have you found most effective, whether it's when you're working with individuals or teams? Is it focusing just on top 5? Are you guys leveraging full 34? Like, obviously you do a variety, but what do you found to be most effective from an impact standpoint?
The top 5 is a great place to start. And the first time somebody's exposed to their strengths profile, got to start with the top 5, in my opinion. Otherwise, it's too much information to digest.
Simplify it. Let them
get them to understand how those 5 are at play in their lives. Really use those 5 to focus on what works for them, what doesn't work for them, balconies, basements, that whole conversation. When you start talking more team dynamic, you start talking more as that second and third conversation, we introduce the top 10 and bottom 5. Right, and so if we run a chart for a team to show everybody on that team, we will show their top 10 and bottom 5. We do not start there. If we start there, we will do what everybody raised in our culture will do, which is we shoot our eyes straight to the bottom 5.
Basically, bottom 5. It doesn't even matter.
Where am I bad? What do I not do well? And so we joke about it, we laugh about it, but we do. We introduce with the top 5, and then our follow-up really digs a little deeper. Because I know, for one, when I first read my top 5, I thought it was all kumbaya and sunflowers. And if you knew anybody who's known me for a long time, that wasn't me. It was my 6 through 10 that really balanced me out. So there's an incredible amount of value there. But if we just throw that at the beginning, it doesn't stick as well.
Yeah, so with the grassroots piece, and I guess I'm asking your futuristic activator this question, you guys have started some things, you've begun to see impact. One of the things, and this applies both for engagement and strengths, but we know that what drives change is strategy, right? With engagement, we talk about its strategy, communication, accountability, and then development.
Right.
But what do you see? I guess I'm asking your futuristic this question. What do you see over the next 5 to 10 years with what you guys have going? What does it look like? What do you kind of see?
What we've actually done is a great segue, completely probably unexpected here, but what we've actually done, we look at us as an organization, is as we come out of the recession, we look forward to what's going to drive us in success forward. We believe coaching is absolutely critical. We believe coaching is the opportunity for us to really get where we want to go as an organization. Well, to do that, we have to have when you have a consumer bank and a commercial bank and a business bank and private wealth and insurance and all these different groups throughout our company that operate independently but yet collaborate with customers and clients, we have to have some consistency on how we coach. Mm-hmm. And to us, strengths is a foundational element of a coaching relationship. So we call it establishing a strengths-based relationship, that every leader in our bank who's going to coach somebody, they have to start with establishing a strengths-based relationship with them, being able to look at them for what they do well, what they bring to the table, and that's something that we're beginning the rollout of in 2015. And so in the next 5 years, what do I see? I see every associate at Regions Bank not just taking strengths and having a meaningful conversation about it, but that meaningful conversation is with their manager and is with their leader. So it's not just an external experience, it becomes a foundational part of how they're coached every day. And that's a big step and a big change, but that's where we see this going. That's what we're driving to. So, 2 years ago when Sue, David, and myself were in Omaha and we had our experience, stood up and committed to 24,000 people towards that $1 billion, right? We said, we're going to do this. We have the plan in place on how we're actually going to make that happen.
That's awesome.
That's really exciting. For somebody futuristic positivity, I always knew we'd get there, but it's really exciting now to be able to see how it's going to happen.
Yeah, no, that's great. Jim, other questions out there?
Yeah, so Mara asked a good question. She's one of our associates there.
Mara's got a lot of questions.
Thank you for being in chat as well there. But she asked if you knew at the beginning of the strengths rollout what you know now, if anything, would you do anything differently? A few lessons learned, maybe, that looking back, some advice for somebody who's maybe trying to start a grassroots movement.
So first off, shout out to Mara. Mara was the one who led our session in Omaha 2 years ago. First introduction to it. So Mara was the one who gave me that life-changing experience. So shout out to Mara for that one.
Even though she's a Ducks fan.
Even though she's a Duck. Well, if you remember when Auburn played Oregon, Auburn won.
Yeah.
Just don't forget that. So
just to be clear, right? Just to be clear.
That was for you.
Be clear. So if I knew then what I know now, I don't think I would change an awful lot about how we approach this. We did not have an appreciation for just how quickly this would go. And so initially, I think that the biggest lesson learned is the need for multiple touches and for the follow-up, and that one exposure wasn't going to be a life-changing experience for most people. It was for us, but we spent 5 days really digging into it, right? So for a team in a 2 to 4 hour workshop together, that's the one thing I would have done more of, was probably built in some structured follow-up with them. But I do think that the types of teams we worked with, the level of those teams in the organization, all worked fine, because I don't think it would have been drastically different had we just picked one business group and focused on that entire organization. It may have worked differently, it may not have. I love that we were able to work with teams in technology and sales and operations and HR and get experiences in all the different workflows that they do, to see how a communication woo looks in HR versus a communication woo in sales, and it's fun in that sense. But building in the follow-up was the biggest lesson.
And this wins question of the day. I think this has been my favorite question so far. Leslie asks it. She says, any difference in the way you approach youth work with strengths compared to the folks at work when you do it professionally?
Absolutely, 100% difference. In this sense, I have to, when I work with youth, they're not done cooking yet, right? There's so much more change that can happen that I talk far less definitively with them. I talk more about what this tells me or what this says they may be like. So I talk a little more vague with them. I'm talking with a professional who's been doing something for 20 years, it's easier to pull experience into the equation and to talk about concrete examples. So when I work with youth, it's much more, how have you ever felt this way? How have these types of things made you feel historically? And so there's a lot more I try to leave it more open for them to maybe not articulate a direct connection to this early on. The longer you talk with them, they make the connections and they see it. But I think the biggest difference in a professional environment is people have had some sort of conversation like this, whether it be Myers-Briggs, whether it be DISC profiles, things along those lines, and they've received a lot more feedback in their career in general. They've got performance reviews that tell them what they struggle with or what they do well in general. So there's a lot more evidence for what their natural strengths and struggles may be. Working with a 17-year-old who's already insecure because they're a 17-year-old about this stuff, it's a lot more open-ended and asking them, I guess a little less definitive about their talents, helping them pick the one or two that they can really latch onto. If I can get a teenager to find of their top 5, 1 or 2 that they really like and they can play up, that's a big win. That's a big win to find that one thing that they are really excited about.
But do you find some similarities as well? I mean, are there things in there? What do you find that you can take home from work and use there?
No, people laugh a lot when they read the reports that I've experienced. That's the same whether you're 15 or 50, right? When you read something and you read a comment about, for me, it was when I read my communication description, right? That you like to talk in stories. You like to tell stories, and oftentimes will embellish the truth for the sake of a good story, right? I've been hearing that since I was 5 years old. So for me, I see that there's absolutely similarities, but I think the approach you take to expectations in the conversation are what's really different. So yes, absolutely.
Jeremy, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to ask you too, Austin, with the with resources, and obviously you know some of this, but have you leveraged with the high school students Strengths Quest? We also have Living Your Strengths, which kind of brings in some of the biblical underpinnings that people use in church. Have you found either of those resources useful or insightful?
Yeah, Strengths Quest is a great resource when working with youth. It really is. Living Your Strengths, I've read, have not shared it broadly with the group, with the youth as much. But when you think about what I like about the Strengths Quest side of it is it takes a lot of these themes and it really puts them into more future thinking. How could you use this? Where could you go? And it puts it into language that's easier for youth to comprehend and understand and digest. So I think Strengths Quest is a great tool.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about. I know in the spring there's plans for strengths-based parenting, right? Like that type of stuff to me is what gets me really excited. I've got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old little girl, and so to think about how to raise kids in today's society, I'm psyched about that resource coming out as well.
Yeah. You're absolutely right, and I liked your comment of those high school students aren't quite baked yet, right? And even in Strengths Quest, there's a great chapter 10 that just talks about even thinking about careers. It's not. I think people want Gallup to take an approach of, hey, if I'm in woo, do I need to be in sales? You kind of referenced that a little bit earlier, but it's like, or if I'm analytical, do I need to be a data analyst? It's like, not necessarily, but what we know is if you're high woo, it's like being a job where you have the ability to connect with people. Right. If we lock you in a room where you're sorting mail all day, that's not going to be a job where you come alive.
Well, that's a great point. One of the things we've done at Regions, one of my colleagues, David Lyons, has developed a lot of the workshops that we use. Mm-hmm. And we've got an exercise we do very clearly shows one of the most common jobs we have is we call a relationship manager, whether it be a business banker or a commercial banker, whatever types of relationships you're managing, they're the point person with a client. And we clearly show how a relationship manager can be successful in that role with any set of themes, with any set of talents, and showing how somebody who's communication and woo may go out there and leverage relationships in the community. Maybe the social butterfly who anytime a client needs something, they know who to connect them with. They already have a great relationship with somebody who can help them get that done. Whereas a relationship manager with strategic and ideation may be able to approach that client's problems from a new perspective, really help them think through how they can tackle that problem, and they can both be successful in that role completely different ways. And I think that's for us, as we have increase the communication and the conversation around strengths, a really important point in the enterprise, like as y'all would say, inside a company. All right, what does this really mean? What does this really say? This does not say successful people in sales are communication woo. That's not what this says.
Yep.
Successful people in sales find a way to leverage their talents to be successful. Successful people in HR find a way to leverage their talents to be successful.
Yep.
It does not matter what talents those are. So I think that's the big sort of underlying point you have to really drive home, because otherwise it can easily be misinterpreted. It can easily sort of fall into this, all right, well, let's see the top 5 for our most successful salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anytime you get beyond 15, 20 people, you end up seeing that, guess what? It falls in line, the strengths distribution falls in line with the sort of general population. There's some responsibility is going to be high. Well, it's the most common in our universe at Regions, so it's not like it's that different in that sales role. So I think that's a point we are really committed to driving, is that strengths and themes are not what you do. They are how you do everything that you do.
Yeah.
So we drive that point home as often as possible.
Yeah, well said. And I think people always want to know, does it tell me, can I do this or can I do that? And it's not a can, it's a how,
right,
as you said. And that's true again for a 15-year-old or a 50-year-old.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think had I seen this when I was 19 years old, right? Had I done this and had this experience as a teenager, would I have majored in the same thing I majored in college? Yeah, probably. I was a finance major in college. Always been good with numbers, liked how I could use them. Would I have taken the first job I had out of college as a financial analyst, doing an investment analysis out of college? When you look at analyticals 32 for me, intellections 33, deliberatives 34, communication woo, all these sort of very social things. No, I probably wouldn't have taken that
Mm-hmm.
job fresh out of college. So it's not like I think it can be absolutely influential in thinking about where you go. But like you said, it's not like there's one job profile that fits this set of talents. But the types of things you get to do in that job can certainly be helped by knowing this.
That's great.
Jeremy, as we come up here towards the close of our time, any final thoughts? Austin, anything you want to throw in as kind of a final wrap?
Yeah, I would say, once again, we at Regions, we are committed to the associates of our company. We're committed to engagement as a means to really help us accomplish our goals. We believe strongly that engagement is connected to performance outcomes, and strengths is a natural accelerator to engagement. And we have seen that. The teams that I know at our company that have really integrated strengths into their everyday activities, I've seen performance improvements. I've seen enjoyment and satisfaction and engagement improve. I've seen all those things happen. So as we go from 5,000 people to 24,000, having experienced this, it gets me really excited about the future of our organization. I really can't wait to see what it ends up looking like and ends up feeling like. But I say this to every person that I do a strength session with. Find the one or two things that you can do whether it be at work or in your personal life. When you think about strengths, try something that's frustrating you. Try approaching it through a strengths lens and see how more successful you can be with it. If you're already struggling with something, it never hurts to try it from a different angle. And I know personally I've seen it work. I've seen friends and peers work with it. So I love working with people who have varying set of strengths and varying themes. And so I get really excited when I think about the future of our organization when we get to have these conversations more frequently.
And then, Austin, are you guys able to take advantage of, we create these tools called the Coach Theme Thursday in the pre-show. You and I were talking about that,
yeah.
And, it's super easy to take advantage of those as an independent strengths coach.
Yeah.
Are you guys able to take advantage of those? We have some 2-minute strengths videos. We now have some 8-minute theme, overtures about strengths. How have you guys used those internally?
So, probably not as well as we could. I know we're a big. I try to advertise the Strengths app whenever I'm doing a session with a team to make sure that they see they're able to have their strengths at their fingertips whenever they can. we do have an internal portal, Gallup Online, where our managers can access their engagement scores, their strengths results. So we have a lot of those videos linked through that website, some of the theme testimonials and so forth like that. So we do have some of that. As we think about, as we continue our evolution to strengths being more prevalent and more actually now advertising that we do this, even though we haven't to this point, that's the type of stuff we certainly will be looking to do more of.
Oh, very cool. Well, you mentioned the training that you came to with Mara, and Mara, thanks for coming out in our chat room today. Mara, is always great to have her out there. She's a real pro, and so Mara, thanks for doing that. Jeremy, what do we have coming up that you can talk about training-wise, and what's coming up on Called to Coach?
Yeah, so any of the upcoming training, we talked about the accelerated coaching program. Austin even talked about the 2-day successful straight coaching program. There's a lot of different coaching programs, even manager training that's available. You can find all that out on the website that Jim referenced. Our next call to coach. So again, kind of this whole idea of just wanting to continue to educate you, expose you to best practices. Whether it's Theme Thursday or our Great Manager program. Our next call to coach is going to happen 2 weeks from today, so that will be December 19th. Alexis Thompson is our coach that's going to be joining us. She's an independent coach. Does a lot of one-on-one coaching as well as with teams, in business, in communities, families, and excited to hear from her. She's got a kind of a cool, fun combination of themes that have really served her well. As an executive coach, as somebody who's even stepped out to kind of start her own business and the impact that she's had. So been a real front runner for us on the strengths movement, with everything that Gallup's kind of up to and making a big difference in the lives of a lot of people and a lot of companies. So we're excited to hear from her December 19th.
All right, very good. Austin, we do want to thank you for taking time to be on Call to Coach. We, in all the effort we went into this week to make this happen, it's not as easy to do it in an enterprise sometimes as it is to do it outside. So, Austin, thanks for taking the time. Super important that we had this conversation with you today, so thanks for taking a few minutes.
My pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity.
You bet. We want to remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources we have available. Jeremy mentioned the Gallup Strength Center, just Gallup-Strengthscenter.com. We have all the training that's available all around the world, and that's there as well, as far as that's the right place to go and get all your strengths codes. So if you need to buy those there, you can do that at our site. Send us your questions or comments. And if you'd like to be a guest blogger on the Coach's blog, if you haven't checked that out, we will take that as well. Send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. You can also catch the recorded audio and video for this program, plus all the past ones, and our link to our Facebook and YouTube. Let me just say now, everything is on the coaching blog. That's the resource, the place to go to, coaching.gallup.com, and I'll throw that link here in the chat for those listening live if you want to do that. By the way, we want to remind you that we have both Android and iOS apps. I don't know, Austin, if you guys are using those at all internally to be able to get that done, but a great resource. They're absolutely free. You can log in with the account that you took the assessment under, and it will show it to you on your phone. So if you can't remember what your top 5 are, a great way to do that. Just go to either one of the stores for Android or iOS, search Strengths Finder, and download that, and you can use that today. We also have both iTunes and RSS feeds that are available if you want to subscribe. Many of you have asked me, hey, I want to listen to this in the car, on the train, in the plane, whatever. We have those available for you. Download them to your phone. Just head out to the Coach's blog, coaching.gallup.com, and if you have any questions, let me know. I'd love to help you do that. We want to thank everyone for coming out today and for joining us, and we'll look forward to the next Call to Coach. Goodbye, everyone.